Welcome to Illustrated Beard, Episode 5. I am Jason.
I'm Nate.
And tonight my reviews are going to be Batman and Red Hood, which is actually Batman and Robin. They're calling it Red Hood because Red Hood's the guest star this year or this month.
Robin's dead.
Yeah, Robin's dead. No more Batman and Robin. But I reviewed this one last month also. It's great. We'll talk about it here in a minute. And the Superman Earth 1 trade paperback. It came out in hardcover a while ago, but they've just released it in trade form, and it gives me an excuse to talk about it, because it's really sweet.
And it gives you no excuse not to buy it.
Exactly. It's much cheaper now.
This time I'm going to be reviewing 12 Reasons to Die. It is the companion comic. It's a 6-issue miniseries. Story is created by Ghostface Killah of the Wu-Tang Clan, a man named Adrian Young, who I believe is a band leader on Daptone Records, which are a really awesome record label. It is actually written by Matthew Rosenberg and Patrick Kinlan, who, as far as I understand, they both played a role in creating the story. The album that is the companion to this is a concept album. And the trade is John Constantine Hellblazer Volume 5, Dangerous Habits. It just got reprinted, and it's awesome.
They're printing them with the numbers on them, so you know which order to read them in.
Indeed.
And together, last month we reviewed Batman 19, so we decided, what the heck, Batman number 20 is going to be our compilation review.
Our
collaborative. Yes.
Collaborative.
I don't know how to talk. So why don't you go ahead and start, Nate?
Alright, I will start. 12 Reasons to Die, featuring Ghostface Killah, which is, it's interesting that it noted that I actually just found out moments ago that he did not actually write the script. But he did definitely have a large hand in the creative process. This is kind of like his thing, his collaboration with Adrian Young, who I mentioned, did do a lot of the story writing. But the first issue doesn't really go in too much into what the story here is. Those of you,
some concepts.
Yeah, this is very much like your basic entrance into the story. There's two stories going on at once here. There's a story in the 60s dealing with gangsters in Italy, and a story in modern day dealing with what is known as a crate digger, a guy who looks for really, really old records by digging through record crates. And he apparently has been hired by a mob boss to find a very specific record that is unlabeled. Now, the story, the overarching story here is that Anthony Starks, which may be a familiar name, Tony Starks has always been Ghostface Killah's alter ego, but which I think is funny. Iron Man is also what he has called himself. But this character in the 60s, I guess, is rising up in the mobster ranks, and at some point is killed by his fellow mob bosses, and they press his remains into 12 vinyl records, and he comes back as the Ghostface Killah and hunts them all down. So it's kind of like The Crow meets Godfather.
It very much reminded me of The Crow when reading it, for sure.
It's definitely like, I gotta be honest, I was not sure. I'm a big fan of Ghostface Killah. I'm a big fan of Wu-Tang Clan. I know that they're all excellent lyricists and writers in that regard, but I wasn't sure what to expect as far as his ability to write fiction. That being said, he didn't write this script, but he did, like I said, come up with a story. And I kind of expected this to just be kind of gimmicky, and it wasn't. It was a well-written story, and I'm definitely on for all of them. I've said before that I was on for all 6 issues, whether it was a good comic or not.
It definitely has a really awesome cover.
Yeah, there's another cover as well that's on the shelf that I actually got at his show when he came through on tour. There was a C2E2 exclusive that I'm very sad I didn't get, and there's a Ghost variant that I will get. I actually just talked to a friend, Patches, who is in New York, and apparently there's a store that has an exclusive variant there, and he's like, oh yeah, I picked it up, signed by Ghostface Killah, it was cover price, and I was like, and you did not grab me one? And he told me he's going to send his girlfriend in, because it was one per person.
Oh, nice.
To get me one tomorrow,
Nice.
and see if he can hook me up, so
very cool.
I would gladly pay him more than cover price for that. But
sure.
Yeah, I mean, it was good. Like I said, I didn't have many expectations. I was excited for whether or not it was going to be a good comic, just because it relates to some of my interests, and it's an artist, a musician who I really enjoy. But it was good, and I'm definitely on for the long count. I suggest, even if you're not familiar with Ghostface Killah, if you like horror comics, if you like crime comics, pick this up. Pick this up. There's several artists, Jason's not a fan of that, and I was talking. I'm generally not, unless the pacing works. Like if Thor: God of Thunder had an artist for each timeline, I'd be okay with that.
That's different. Yeah, I mean, if you're trying to do, like, I've seen stories that have multiple artists because part of the story takes place in the past and part of the story takes place in the future, and that makes sense within the context of the story. But to just have multiple artists just because...
To me, it looks like there are 2 artists per story here.
Yeah.
Which, we'll see. We'll see how that works. I liked it in the first issue. We'll see. That can throw me off. It didn't really throw me off here.
For me, it didn't throw me off in this book, but for me, having different artists, it changes how you're viewing a story, because when you're reading a comic, it's all about the graphical style as presented to you, and that helps to tell the story. So when you switch it up mid-issue, it kind of changes your perspective on things and can change your just the way you're looking at the story in general.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah.
But yeah, 12 Reasons to Die featuring Ghostface Killah. Pick it up, give it a shot. It's on Black Mask Comics, and as far as I know, this is the first time I've seen.
I've never heard of Black Mask Comics before.
I've heard of them because I've heard of Occupy Comics. I know that they push boundaries, not in the same way as Avatar, though. I think they touch on. I think they touch on some touchy political things, but judging by some of the stuff they've gotten here.
It's good to not see violence for the sake of violence. I mean, it's a very violent story, but the violence is completely acceptable for the nature of the story.
Well, like this advertisement, Liberator, real heroes don't wear capes, they wear ski masks, and it's got a bunch of people in black masks. I'm not even going to go into my connection with things like this, but like
we'd be here all day.
I'm just surprised to see that in a comic. So I don't know. I'm interested. It's got a review from Scott Snyder, but yeah, pick this up. Maybe we'll see more by Black Mask Comics. I don't know.
All right. My review tonight is Batman and Red Hood. It's the Batman and Robin book. You can see here on the cover, which I really thought was awesome. It also, Rich Johnston on Bleeding Cool will do...
It's the Age of Ultron
the swipe file, yeah. And they're doing an Age of Ultron number 10 AI one-shot, and it's got Hank Pym, and clearly the Ultron face was around his, and it's crashing through, so... It kind of is very reminiscent of that, but this comic did hit the shelf first, so...
Really?
Yeah.
That's a fair point. That's a fair point.
The AI one doesn't come out until after Age of Ultron number 10.
I just saw that. I saw the Age of Ultron art.
Yeah. We saw it in previews.
Way sooner, yeah.
Yeah, previews showed it. But no, this was an awesome issue. It is Bruce in his continuing quest to find a way to bring Damian back. That seems like this is the book where they're focusing on that point. And it wasn't really... It didn't really stand out until I read this issue, because the last one was the first one that wasn't Batman and Robin. If you remember, it was Batman and Red Robin. And so this book also, he's trying to find a way to bring Damian back. We talked last time with this comic about Carrie Kelly, and she has a little some time in this book over the first half of the book. She basically wasn't accepting of the fact that Bruce Wayne just gave her money, and it was very mysterious, and she doesn't know where Damian is. So she just comes to Wayne Manor, and Bruce talks to her, and in classic fashion, he's just kind of a douche, you know. But she's asking questions about Damian. He tells her her services are no longer required. We also find out what she was teaching him in this book. She was teaching him how to be an actor. She was giving him acting lessons, which was interesting. Bruce, I gotta find the page here, but Bruce asks, he says, why was Damian taking acting lessons? And she says, he said he wanted to know what it was like being someone else. Huh. Which is kind of an interesting thing. And they don't go into any more detail.
Jesus, man.
Yeah, they don't go into more detail than that. But there's a really cool conversation, and she basically just confronts him about where Damian is, and he comes up with the excuse that he's studying abroad for the next several years, seeing the world, doing things most 10-year-old boys only dream about. And, she buys it, but you can kind of tell that she takes it with a grain of salt. She doesn't really, it seems like she doesn't really think he's telling her the truth. And she says you should be ashamed of yourself sending him away because he probably cramps your bachelor lifestyle. And she throws him an envelope, and he opens the envelope, and it's some money. And he says, this money I gave you is for lessons owed along with compensation for not giving notice that he was leaving. And she is showing her true colors in this point. She says, I pulled out the $1,000 I earned, the rest is yours. I don't take money for work I haven't done. So she's obviously a very honorable person. She takes the money for what she did, and she doesn't want the rest. And then she notices Titus, the little dog, the Great Dane that Bruce has, that Damien had been taking care of. And he takes to her immediately, and Alfred even comments on the strange nature of that, because Titus doesn't like strangers. But clearly she knows a lot about Great Danes. She goes into this little monologue about what Great Danes are, what they represent. And Bruce basically asks her to leave. In, like I said, classic douchebag fashion. That's who he's been since Damien died. It's an interesting thing, though, here at the end. Alfred asks her if she would like a job taking care of Titus here at the house 2 or 3 times a week. He says he'll pay for her gas and her food. And she says she agrees, absolutely, I'd love to watch him until Damien gets back. So this obviously is what Tomasi was saying in interviews about how we're going to see more of her. This is not the last time.
This is going to get depressing, man. All the Batman books are depressing as hell right now.
It's the death of his son, man. It's going to be depressing.
Jeez.
So then we cut to later, and we're down in the Batcave, and Red Hood is there, and Batman asks him to come with him on a mission. And it's about some assassins that went back in Batman Incorporated. Talia had put a bounty on Damien's head, and a couple of assassins had targeted him, and he's found the place they came from, and he wants to go show them that you don't point guns at 10-year-olds. And Jason says to him, Jason Todd, the Red Hood, says, "You asking me to go with you?" And Bruce says, "Yes, I am." And he goes, "Why?" And he just says, "Because I'm seeing red." And so then we're taken to, he's just in rage mode right now, pretty much. So then we're taken to Ethiopia, where he finds these assassins, and him and Red Hood just proceed to beat the crap out of all of them. And it's actually kind of funny because 90% of the time, Bruce is not okay with guns, and he makes an exception for Red Hood. Red Hood does use guns. But he tells him knees, hands, and elbows. This is what he tells to Jason Todd. And Jason Todd agrees. Nothing but is what he says. So yeah, he is shooting people. He's taking them down. Bruce has, we are introduced to some special gauntlets that he's wearing for this occasion only. He grabs the wrists of one of the assassins, and it literally, he says, "Your days of pulling triggers and killing innocent people are over. The nerves in your hand will never function again."
Jesus.
He basically he tells the guy to get on his radio with his chin and request a medical evac for all your buddies who won't be able to pick their noses anymore, is what he says, which was, just brutal. We just have not seen Batman at this brutal level in such a long time, and it's refreshing, and as Nate said, it's also kind of depressing to see him this way.
Jeez.
And so they get done, and Red Hood asks him, "Are we done?" And Bruce says, "Never, let's go." And they kind of drive for hours, and they end up at the Magdala Valley. Well, I don't know if they ever called it this during the story. It's been a long time since I've read Death of the Family, or Death in the Family, which was where Jason Todd died. Everybody will remember that. But he takes him back to the place where he died. And I don't know if you can see, they kind of have a flashback moment where they show him holding Robin in his arms. And he took him back here to see if it would jog any memory within Jason Todd about how he was resurrected, how he came back to life. And again, here we come to the issue of him trying to find a way to resurrect Damien. And him and Bruce just basically get in a fist fight out here because Jason doesn't want to remember these things. Like, he's tried very hard to bury this part of his life. He was beaten very brutally to death by the Joker in this moment, and he just doesn't want to remember that. And so Jason wins the fight. And he just says, the last thing he says is, "I'm taking the car. Goodbye, Bruce." And he just drives away in the Batmobile, leaving Bruce standing here. So yeah, I won't talk about the last page, because the last page kind of has some implications about a future story. So yeah, I won't talk about the last page because it is very much something you should check out on your own. But Batman and Robin number 20, DC Comics, Peter Tomasi, Patrick Gleason, fantastic book, and apparently the next person we're dealing with will be Batgirl. So the next issue will be Batman and Batgirl 21.
Interesting.
So yeah, that's a good book. It's on my shelf now. Check it out.
Trades or common book?
Let's go to the common book first. Why not? Switch it up a little bit.
Batman 20.
Batman 20. Yeah.
It's the only DC book I read.
Right. We've come far enough to the point where Batman 20 has hit the shelf, and I'm going to reveal a little bit of information that we didn't reveal last time. So spoiler alert. If you haven't read Batman number 19, you might want to turn the video off right now. I'll give you a second to do so now. Okay, so the villain...
Clayface.
The villain is Clayface, yeah. And that's why we had Bruce Wayne committing murders and robbing a bank.
Did he commit murders?
He did. He shot people in cold blood, ran over Commissioner Gordon.
Rather than just maiming them.
He just outright was killing people.
Clayface at least just puts them out of their misery.
Right.
Batman, as we've seen, just makes it so that they have no use of their hands ever again. Jesus.
So this
he has the moral high ground, clearly.
Right, sure. But so you can see here on the cover, Batman fighting Bruce Wayne, which is obviously knowing that it's Clayface is a good understanding of what's going on.
How could that happen, Jason?
But this was a really good issue. It starts at Wayne Enterprises, and it's just a fight between Clayface and Batman. The Batbots make their reappearance. If you've been reading Batman Incorporated, you're well aware of the Batbots and what they're capable of. They make their reappearance here. And Clayface wins the fight. It's actually kind of, it's one of those moments where, you know, Bruce Wayne is not dressed as Batman, so he doesn't have all his toys with him to help him out.
If you've ever wanted to see Bruce Wayne get puked out of a poop monster's mouth, covered in poop, this is the issue for you.
It definitely is. I mean, you can see that panel right there. He is literally vomiting him into a trash compactor at
somewhere
lab.
in the bowels of the Death Star.
And Lucius Fox is here also. If you remember from the last issue, he's been impersonating Lucius Fox as well. But so Bruce and Lucius Fox have a conversation, and we all know that Lucius Fox he doesn't know that Bruce Wayne is Batman, but he does. But he very much, based on his dialogue here, is pretending that he doesn't. He always talks to Bruce as Bruce and refers to Batman as a separate entity, which is interesting because we all know that he knows. That is, he's not stupid. He's building things for Batman. He's not, he's an intelligent man. But so there is a really cool moment. If any of you guys out there read Batman Beyond or have watched the cartoon from back in the day,
they find a
suit.
Yeah,
that Lucius was going to destroy.
A concept suit.
Yeah, that Lucius was going to destroy.
Bruce puts it on, and it's totally the Batman Beyond suit. I mean, 100%.
Boom.
And he says, "Why were you throwing this out?" And Lucius goes, "It won't be cost effective for another 20 years, and there are some other reasons I'll fill you in on later."
Yeah, it's a very interesting little nod to the Batman Beyond universe.
Yeah, for sure.
And it also explains how Bruce ended up with this suit in the cave for Terry McGinnis to later use. Really awesome, cool little nod to.
I mean,
to
yeah,
Batman
like
Beyond.
it's potentially Batman Beyond in the New 52. Like,
we'll see. I mean,
who knows?
A couple of writers have put Batman Beyond into the future continuity at long way down the road, but the current Batman Beyond Unlimited comic is clearly not. I mean, it's very much its own thing. You have the old Bruce and stuff. There was a story that Grant Morrison wrote in Batman number 700 that showed an old version of Damian Wayne being the guy sitting at the cave giving orders to Terry McGinnis. So,
wow.
Yeah, it was very interesting.
Oh, man.
Some of the stuff Grant Morrison does,
that's awesome, though.
DC Comics will say is not a part of continuity. So we'll see where the chips fall at the end of it. But then we're treated to some more of Bruce Wayne just kind of causing havoc with the Batman suit exposed under his shirt, which is interesting.
Yeah, it's really cool.
And then we get back to Wayne Enterprises, and Batman is there. He
becomes Iron Man.
in kind of a hazmat suit. It looks like a hazmat suit.
It's awesome, though. It's
yeah, and Clayface proceeds to change into a couple of different villains that everybody who loves Batman will recognize. Joker is one of them, Penguin, Riddler, just kind of messing with the Batman's emotional state.
They drive further throughout this fight that this is not, in Clayface's own words, he says, this is not your daddy's Clayface. Like,
right.
He's not weak to the same things.
Yeah, all the tricks that he used to use to defeat Clayface are failing him in this moment, which is interesting. And then Commissioner Gordon and the police show up and see Batman fighting Clayface, which, I mean, being as how he's been masquerading as Bruce Wayne and showing that he's Batman, you could look at that and say maybe Commissioner Gordon has put the pieces together and now understands, you know, but...
I just want to say we should not spoil how it ends, but we should tell you where we should leave it is he does break Batman's hazmat mask, he does touch Batman's face, and he does say, I'm going to show you who Batman is, and he does turn into Bruce Wayne in front of the entire Gotham City Police Department and Gordon. What happens next?
Yeah,
what happens next is Batman 0 year, and that's going to be incredible.
Awesome. Just, I cannot wait to see what Scott Snyder's cooked up for the origins of New 52 Batman.
We shall see.
But Nate is right. We shouldn't spoil the end. It's a very good, emotional moment.
Yeah, it's...
And it will upset you and also make you smile. And
it's a good sad ending. Like, I don't know.
This guy was getting a little misty when he was reading it.
I got a little teary-eyed. It's so nostalgic and sad.
Yes.
And great.
But check it out. Yeah, Batman number 20, second part of a two-part Clayface story that they did in the interim between Death of the Family and the new 0 year story that's coming. So we'll be back next month talking about 0 year for sure. So stick with us on that.
Right. We don't have a whole lot of time left, so I'm just going to go over.
Yeah, we'll quickly do trades.
This fast. There's not really much I can say about this book. Speaking of nostalgic, sad, and awesome.
Shed a tear for Hellblazer no
Dangerous,
longer being with us.
Yeah, but Dangerous Habits. This is, I will admit, the only Hellblazer book I have read cover to cover. I got it as a birthday present. The last printing of it I got as a birthday present. It had different cover art for my 20th birthday. It was the first Hellblazer I ever read. My brother growing up collected Hellblazer. It was like his main book. And I had told him I wanted to read it, so he got me Dangerous Habits, which was his favorite arc and many people's favorite arc.
It is one of the best ones they ever did.
For my 20th birthday, and I read it, and I mean, having only read just a chunk of this whole story, am still kind of convinced at the end of this arc that Constantine's like one of the greatest comic book characters ever.
He's definitely up in the top 5 for sure.
He's just...
I would argue that Batman is the greatest comic character, but I could be biased.
but Constantine's a very complex and upsetting and easy to sympathize with character. Like all at the same time, like he's not a good guy, but I think that's kind of what makes him easy to sympathize with. Like he has good qualities. Like he definitely loves people, but he's so bad at that. Like he's just not good at it.
Very much so.
But you can see on the cover, he's standing on a pack of cigarettes, which he is famous for smoking. So,
yeah.
I don't know if I can say the brand. I recently found out it's a real brand.
Is it?
It is a real brand.
I was not aware of that.
I actually wanted to smoke them after I found that out, which is really messed up. Especially given...
smoke the cigarettes that Constantine smokes?
So in this arc...
Don't smoke, kids. It's bad.
Yeah, don't. He finds out that he gets lung cancer. Don't smoke. So... in classic Constantine style, he proceeds to cure himself of lung cancer.
In various supernatural ways.
Incredible story that when you, like, there's this whole, like, obviously you know going into this, like, he's not going to die from lung cancer because the series went on for another 6 trillion issues.
Right, I mean, it went on for a while.
But you don't know, like, you read through the whole thing and you don't know, like, how is he going to get out of this? And before he makes it clear, at least for me, his plan came together, and I was like, oh, I know what he's going to do, and my head exploded. Like, it is one of the coolest, things, and it really sums up who I think this character is, that he does this without fighting a demon. He's not shooting crossbow bolts with a cross-shaped crossbow at Satan. Like he is
Everybody
talking.
remembers that horrible movie with Keanu Reeves.
He is talking. Literally, he's talking to demons and angels and
bargaining
and tricking the most deceitful creatures in mythology into giving him the winning hand. And it's great. And really what's great about this, though, is not seeing him triumph. What's great about this story is seeing him, like, throughout the whole story just being driven by the one thing that is, like, he's going to die and go to hell.
Yeah.
For everything he's done, and just being driven by making that not be the case. And when he gets there and looks at what he's caused and everything that's happened as a result of him being who he is and his selfishness, just the way he reacts to that once he's finally victorious is, I don't know, like that's what that character is about to me. Is like, yeah, he always wins in the end and is never the better for it.
Yeah. And one little note, just because it's a funny moment, as soon as he's cured, he immediately goes back to smoking.
Oh yeah. If you're trying to quit smoking, don't read this book. Because
after all the hardship and the adversity and everything he's gone through to cure himself of cancer.
Not even just just because every other page on in a Constantine book, he smokes while he has cancer in this book. I mean, like,
he can't give it up.
Constantine is turn a page, he's lighting a cigarette. Turn a page, he just finished that cigarette. Turn 2 pages, he's lighting a cigarette. Like, when I still smoked, this book made me chain smoke so much harder than I did as it was. So, yeah, Dangerous Habits, really, I mean, it's a quality book. I strongly recommend it. It's back on the shelf now, finally, with a number on the side, so you know where it goes.
Where it falls within all the other ones.
I will say you don't have to read the one before this to read this and get it.
No, I think we talked about that at one point in a video when you were reviewing something Hellblazer, and we were reviewing Constantine, I think. And
it was, yeah.
And we talked about how there really was no real order to read them in. They all have their very self-contained story going on.
Though you'll understand a lot of things. If you read the whole thing, I mean, like, his character changes.
That's the continuity, is him as a character changing.
But there's other things. There's a point where he is at a loss for what to do, and somebody suggests that he go and speak to the Elemental. Of course, the Elemental can help him. Who's the Elemental? How does he know the Elemental?
Right.
The Elemental Swamp Thing. How does he know the Swamp Thing?
Pieces of it, yeah, for sure.
So, yeah, that's my trade pick.
My trade pick, again, came out in hardcover a while ago, but they've released this beautiful trade, Superman Earth 1, Volume 1. This one is, I believe the hardcover was in the $25 to $30 range. This one's only $12, like $12.99. Not bad for what an awesome story it is. And it was never released in single issue form. It is a complete standalone original graphic novel. And they call it Earth 1 because what they're trying to do is show you a different take. And I know everybody out there is thinking to themselves, how many times can we retell the origin of a character? And I'm with you. Some of the retellings of the origins have just been really lame and have not been worth a read. But this one is definitely worth a read. These Earth 1 books have been telling, it's kind of like the Ultimate Universe for Marvel. It's been telling a modern day take on the characters. You know, what if these things happened today as opposed to back in the 50s, the 40s, 50s, when Superman was first written and we first started giving him origins and filling the pieces in. But it's a fantastic read. It shows that the first time he goes to Metropolis, and you kind of get the impression that he doesn't want to be the hero that his parents have tried to, this ideal that his parents have tried to instill in him. So he uses his powers to go on these job interviews. Like, he goes and tries out for a football team, and they're immediately like, my God, we need to sign this guy. We're going to call the coach right now. He goes to a lab where there's a complex equation these people have been working on for years trying to solve. He solves it in a second, and the guy immediately comes out, we'll offer you a spot on the R&D department, we'll pay you hundreds of thousands of dollars every year.
This has been on my list, and I do not like Superman.
So. Yeah, it is a Superman story for those of you who don't like Superman. Honestly, it really is.
What about those who do?
If you do like Superman, you're going to read it anyway.
That's a fair point. That's a fair point.
But it definitely tells of a Superman who, at first, seems like he doesn't have the ideologies that we remember that he has. You know, the truth, the justice, the American way, and all that kind of stuff. Like, he's kind of just trying to live his life as Clark Kent and just be a normal guy. And of course, he's forced into becoming Superman throughout the course of the story. Some aliens attack Earth that claim they were responsible for blowing up Krypton. Which is very interesting because it's a different take on that story. The story is the sun exploded and it was going to destroy the planet, and no alien was involved, no species was involved, but we are introduced to a species who claims responsibility for destroying Krypton. And like I said, it's just a different take, and they come to Earth because they know the last Kryptonian still lives. And the contract, they talk about a contract they had with another species that hired them to destroy Krypton, and that the deal was every Kryptonian must die. So, first of all, who are those people? Volume 2 has come out and still has not revealed who those people are, so they're continuing to do more of these. But it's intriguing when you get to the end of it. You see him finally put the costume on for the first time.
What's interesting is that they're doing it, it's like an ongoing, except it is, just that it's an ongoing...
in hardcover graphic novel form, yeah, for sure. But so yeah, of course Superman wins out in the end. That's how superhero stories work. But it's brutal. I mean, he kills this man, and every alien in his fleet is destroyed because the ship that he is in gets destroyed. And of course, in classic alien fashion, they're all connected to the mothership. So yeah, they all die, and those that remained on the planet just leave and just take off and get out of there. But it's a really different take on a Superman story. And like I said before, it is a Superman story for people who don't like Superman. It really, really is. And he ends
like
up...
Tobey Maguire.
He does look like a total nerd when he's Clark Kent in this story. Now, it's nothing against Shane Davis. Shane Davis's art is beautiful when you read that there are some great, great panels. But that's always been kind of Superman's thing, and I think it's been played up a little more in this, is that he has to hide the fact that he's, got the best sight and the best hearing, and he has perfect balance. So he has to just kind of be a nerd. And so he does. He cultivates this nerdy Clark Kent persona to go work at the Daily Planet, and he meets Lois and Jimmy and Perry and all these people. And at the end of the story, you see him not at the Fortress of Solitude, but clearly in the Antarctic, where he has bored himself a hole where he can study the ship he came in. And he asks the question, teach me, tell me who I am, where I came from, why and what I'm supposed to do, tell me everything. And the ship simply tells him, your task is to survive, to use your powers well and wisely, and to avenge the murder of your homeworld. So, definitely some different motivations for the character. I mean, that has never been Clark Kent's M.O. I mean, sure, he wanted to know more about it when in the classic continuity...
You spoiled the end of the book.
Oh, whatever. In classic continuity, he found out about the bottle city of Kandor, and the Kryptonian race was reborn through that. So that added a little bit of that element to it. But this story, I mean, he is really the last one left. And the ship tells him that his job, his role, is to avenge the murder of his world. So it's definitely a different take on a Superman story in general. But we're running short on time. Superman Earth 1 trade paperback. If you haven't checked it out yet, I know most of you out there probably have, but if you haven't, the trade is an excellent time to take advantage of it.
It's definitely something that was flying off the shelves.
Moderately priced, yeah, it did.
It's very highly reviewed.
Yeah, we reordered that book so many times here. But yeah, check it out. Superman Earth 1. There's a Batman Earth 1 also. If they release a trade for that, I'll probably review that one as well, because they're both very, very awesome. And Volume 2 has come out as well. Only in hardcover form so far. So if you're looking to wait to save some money, Superman Earth 1 Volume 2 trade should be out within the next couple of months.
Probably.
Yeah. So, that's going to wrap things up for us here with Illustrated Beard. Yeah, I'm going to comment on the fact that Nate has shaved his beard. It's okay. We'll forgive him for that, because it'll grow back.
It will grow back.
But until then, we are Illustrated Beard.
Yes, we are.
And we will see you next week.
Goodbye. And cut.